Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome. I'm Rev Jim, and this is my studio here in my office in the southeast of England. And this is Painful Grace Session 2. I'm not going to repeat all that went the last session, but it is still available on our website, so you can pick it up from there. I want to share in the next three sessions what began to happen to me. The stigmata experience was very shocking, but then the Lord left me to reflect on it for some months, and I left it at that. I didn't know what to do, and then it was as though I started on a journey in the Spirit, and series of visions and pictures and all sorts of stuff came to me, which I wrote in the book called Painful Grace 1, which you can download from Kindle. There are now Painful Grace 2 to 5 is now available, and 6 is coming. So the journey's carried on. I want to try and help us today, or would ask you to help me today, to share with you how my journey began. It is quite difficult to do this, obviously, when I can't see you, so I can't respond to you, but we'll do the best we can. So I'm following the pattern that's laid out in Painful Grace 1, because that was the pattern that I experienced. So one day into my praying and thinking, I found myself in a desert place in the Spirit. So I'm not going to say that again. I'm just going to describe it as it happened. It was a terrible, barren, empty place. There was no trees. This is a good picture. No trees, no water, no flowers. It seemed to stretch as far as I could see. And I asked this question: how has this place come to be like this? How has it become so barren? And it was very barren, very dry, very empty. And it pushed itself into my heart. And I felt that complete emptiness of what I was feeling. And I didn't understand this. I'm a very visionary person. I'm a musician. I'm a poet. So I'm used to, dealing with feelings and stuff. But this was different to anything I'd seen before. And I didn't know what to make of it. Oh, this is odd. What is this I'm seeing? But the question that came to my mind, and I have to believe from the Spirit, is why is this place been denied the water of life? Why has this place become like this? And that question kind of niggled away at me for quite a long time. And then for some days I reflected on this. This is a long journey. It's squeezed into half an hour, but it's a long journey. There were lots of days of thinking and praying. So I thought and I prayed, what does this mean? I thought, well, there's only one thing here. The Lord must guide me. I've never walked this path before. As a crucified intercessor, I didn't know what to expect. This was a hard start. And I soon learned, and as you will read in all the material that follows, it's been a hard, very hard path on which I've nearly died 3 times. So that's how hard it gets. So that the desert place kind of hung in my spirit for quite a long time. And I began to think about it. And then one day another vision came into my mind. I came to a great dam, a huge dam, and behind it was the water of life, which had stopped flowing into this barren place. And I was really trying to make sense of this. What is this great dam? What's going on here? How come the water of life has got held back behind this dam? All pictorial, you realise. And can I just say this? A lot of the things I'm saying tonight only make sense further on in my journey. This was the beginning. So this is where I was, looking at this great dam and wondering why had the water of life got blocked behind this dam. And I was in for the first of many uncomfortable experiences now. I heard crying from the bottom of the dam. I heard crying. And I couldn't understand, so I made my way down the dam to see what the crying was. And what I found there were intercessors, but they weren't crying for the dam and what had happened and what had lost. They were so caught up in themselves. They were crying because they couldn't break the dam. They weren't crying because of the suffering it was bringing, the barrenness, the emptiness, and the other things we're going to see. They were very much crying for themselves. They were concerned for themselves. And they couldn't see the consequences of the dam, just that they couldn't break it. They felt, oh dear, that's not fair. They didn't see. They didn't look into the barren wilderness and let that pain enter them. I hope that's clear. Now, later on in the material, we will see there are many levels of intercession, of which crucified intercession is the bottom. So I'm not critical, but I have generally found that to be the case, that most intercession is shallow and won't take the pain. And these intercessors at the bottom of the dam wouldn't take the pain of the barren wilderness, and we will come across that again and again and again. They were very self-focused. That's what I felt. They weren't looking at the wilderness, the emptiness, the feeling, the waste. They were just, I don't know what they were doing. I was angry that they should be like that when this wilderness was invading me. I needed the water of life. I didn't need people to be crying for, I don't know what they were crying for themselves. And so I said, you cannot walk with me. I don't wish to walk with you. You can't walk with me because I've got to go to the deepest places of suffering. And it's clear to me that you are not equipped to go there. Sorry if you feel that's a bit blunt, but there's a lot more blunt to come. So what I did was I went to the top of the dam again and I thought, well, I'll break it. That's what I'll do. I'm just checking the text as I go along here so that if you read Painful Grace 1, you'll read the same things. I'm trying not to go too far off of it because I know it would be more helpful for you if I stay to it. So I went to the top of the dam and I stood there feeling the failure of these intercessors to break this dam, to deal with this dam. In fact, to even let it come in the first place. That's our job as intercessors, is not to let things come, to see them coming and to break them before they come. And I realized that this failure stretched backwards a long way and forwards a long way. This was a terrible failure of intercession. And I've always felt, this is perhaps an aside, I'll try not to do too many of those because I know it won't help, but I think Hitler was a failure of intercession. That if we'd have been on our mettle and being prepared to live at the crucified level, he would have been broken as a baby and it wouldn't have come. It's a failure of our intercession. And I also wonder whether some other things in the world today are failures of our intercession. So I asked the Lord while I was standing there, what's happened? Why has this happened? I don't understand. And I had this vision. I've had it for quite a long time, this one, but it kind of came into here. I've been writing visionary stuff for decades. So, some of it it's been waiting for this moment. This is the vision. I saw a large desert and it was barren and lifeless. And the Lord said to me, dig. So I took a spade and began to dig. After a while, I uncovered hundreds of lamps. They were all broken. They had not shone light for many years. What is this? I asked the Lord. The Lord began to cry. He said, once these intercessors shone, but now they are lost. That's uncomfortable if it's of God. So, okay. The only thing to do is to break the dam. That seemed to me to be the obvious solution in this situation. And the Lord said, no, you can't break the dam. You've got to walk the path first and learn. And I said, well, okay, I'll do that. What is the path? I don't know. So I travelled on in the spirit, as it were, and I came up against a barren stronghold. Now, the enemy has strongholds everywhere. Wherever he can get a hold, he'll take one, he'll build one. And he'll build them especially where there's innocent blood being shed, but that's for another day. I came across this stronghold barren stronghold. It was like the wilderness I was in, and it was a life-draining place to stand. And I felt that. I felt my life draining out of me. As you will see, most of the experiences affected me actually emotionally and sometimes physically. I think that's right. I think if you're going to intercede at deepest levels, that has to be. It is an emotional experience, not a logical one. And I felt the barrenness, and I broke it. I won't go into that today, but they're easily broken. And I broke. Well, I don't know. I broke it anyway. And to my astonishment, see, when I break a stronghold, if I might just mention this, I call down the angels to fill the space, and that's that. And I move on. And then the enemy can't move back. Remember what the Lord said? If you don't fill the space, 7 spirits even worse will come back and fill it. So I was, but before I could do that, I had a strange thing happen. I saw hundreds and thousands of people trapped in this stronghold of barrenness. That's because the water of life has stopped flowing. That's where the intercessors had failed. And they were trapped in a barren, sterile emptiness. If they had a faith, it was a barren and sterile one. Their lives were barren and sterile. And so I thought, I don't know what to do. They began to come towards me because I had broken the stronghold, and they were coming towards me. I don't know why. And what I did was I built an arch of praise, and I told them, pass through that arch and the angels will take care of you. Because I couldn't take care of them. I had a journey to do. And so they did. They passed through the arch. And I said this, I will not destroy the stronghold. And I've broken it. I will not destroy it until you have all been released. Then I'll come back and finish the job. And that's the first experience I had, having left the dam. In a way, the dam and that is the backstop. Now I'm beginning my journey. This is my first encounter with why this place was so barren. And I saw the stronghold, and normally I just tear them down. Why not? The power of God is in us. We have the power of the resurrected Christ in us. The strongholds can't stand against us. I mean, they just can't. But this was unusual. Somehow the enemy had trapped thousands and thousands of people because the water of life hadn't flowed to them. And so I said, well, okay. I sometimes don't know why I did what I did. We'll see that over and over again. It just seemed right to me to build an arch of praise and send them through and let the angels deal with them. That seemed right to me because I had many other things to do. And so when I got over that, I walked on in the spirit, as it were, and I had a long think. I thought, well, I've done that before, but I've never seen that before. And so I stowed it away. That wasn't too difficult, really, for me. Then after a while, and remember days, weeks will pass, I came across another stronghold. And this was the arrogant stronghold. And this one is very uncomfortable. And it was drawing its strength from these tyrants, Jericho, Goliath, and Nebuchadnezzar. Each of these things and places were full of arrogance. Goliath, as you know, challenged God's people and cursed David by his false gods. How about that? This Goliath was so arrogant, he cursed the one that God was going to raise up, and from his line, the Saviour is going to come. See, that's the thing. The enemy is so arrogant, and in Goliath we saw it. And as these principalities raged around me, I began to think again, how had we got to this? How had this stronghold, this arrogant stronghold, managed to take hold? Then I thought again about the lamps and all the broken lamps. I asked the Lord, well, well, why have all these intercessors failed? I didn't understand. Well, the Lord said some got weary. Well, I know that feeling, but being weary is no excuse. The monk on Mount Athos, I can't remember his name, said prayer is warfare to the last breath. It's hard luck, You get tired, you get tired. It's just the deal. Some got crushed by the church. I've seen that happen. Intercessors been rebuked and made quiet. Some the world just invaded them, like Demas, and took away. Some lost their focus and began to think it was about praise and being happy and all that sort of stuff, which is what I hear everywhere. But I said to the Lord, and there are many others. I'm watching the time, brother. Don't worry. I said to the Lord, there must be a deeper cause for all this. Those are the surface things. What's the deeper cause? And the Lord said, they lost sight of their call and they lost sight of the cost, and they turned away. They lost sight of their call and they lost sight of the cost, and they turned away. Intercessors are to pour out their soul before the Lord, as Hannah did. They are to intercede so greatly that their sweat is like drops of blood. They are to intercede to death, even if it kills them. We'll come to that later. The calling is so hard. And when you come to crucified intercession, it is painful to death. But even at if I say shallow or higher levels, that's not right. But there's no other words. But at the different levels that I think are above crucified intercession, they're all very precious. But I think some, maybe many, have lost sight of their call and the cost and have slipped away into shallow praises and standing up and calling down God and all this sort of stuff. That doesn't affect the enemy one bit. It doesn't make any impact on him. Only pouring out your soul to death deals with him. And I think, well, not for me to say this is true, but that's what the Lord said to me. They had lost sight of their call and the cost. It is very costly. I would say it's the cost that makes the call worthwhile, but then I seem to be very much in a minority in that position. So that came to me while I was standing in front of this stronghold. I'm in no hurry to pull them down. I don't bother because I'm the stronger one. I am the stronger one. They're done for. When I turn up, they're finished. And so sometimes I just wait and think. The arrogance pouring over me, particularly Goliath, one arrogant thing to test the line from which the Saviour would come, cursing him by his gods. I was thinking about all this. I'm thinking about how we got to this. It's a bit of a mixture and a bit of a muddle, isn't it? I agree with you. It is a muddle. I'm trying to put a straight line through something that's a muddle. But this is in my heart. That's my only defence. This is my heart speaking to you, even though it's kind of a muddle and everything. So I was so angry with them. I was so angry at this arrogance. I could hear these words, right? These are the words I heard. I'm just tracking them here. We will break you. You cannot come in here. All that sort of rubbish. I hear it all the time. So I just called down legions of angels to destroy it in the name of Jesus, and it went. This is the thing about the enemy. It's all smoke and mirrors. He hasn't got any power. He hasn't got any authority. When faced with someone with the authority of the crucified Christ, he's done for. He doesn't want it to come to that because he knows he's lost. We'll see over and over and over again that when a crucified intercessor turns up, he knows he's done for. So I destroyed it. And I called down legions of angels to fill it, so that it would then become a place of praise and worship to the Lord, and that the enemy would never be able to come back and take it again. So there are two strongholds faced me straight away. I hardly got started. It's not like you got much time to think about it. I'd had quite a long time to think about the stigmata. That was terrifying. I had some time to think about the dam, but then once the journey started, I had very little time to think about anything because things just kept coming to me over and over and over again, and I had to quickly deal with them. I guess the Lord wanted me to learn fast. So I had destroyed these two strongholds on my journey, the stronghold of barrenness and the stronghold of arrogance, so that in the first one, the people would be free. In the second one, so that this filth would not continue to insult the line from which the Lord would come. That's simply it. That's what I did. And I called down angels. I asked them to occupy the space and make it a place of praise for the Lord. I've always done that. Every stronghold I pulled down, and I'll carry on doing it because it's wonderful. Because then you look back and you see all these sites of praise going on, which once the enemy used for harm, hard luck. Everyone's a sign that he's lost, and we have won. But I had this feeling that these strongholds should not have arisen. But the intercessors hadn't been doing their job. Now, I'll keep saying that over and over again. You'll hear it over and over again. They haven't been doing their job. I go to so many places and I'm told this, that and the other, but I don't see the demonic forces being pulled down. I don't see the way of the Lord being made. I don't hear people pouring out their soul before the Lord. You will have heard me speaking on Venezuela and Greenland yesterday if you were on the Facebook stream. Those things wouldn't be happening if the intercessors were doing their job. The sign that they're not is what's happening. And these two strongholds, this one, which was trapping hundreds and thousands, and this one, which was hurling insults at the line of the risen Christ, we shouldn't stand for that. What does the commandment say? Do not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. That's what these filth was doing. Just trying to curse the line of the Lord. That had to be taken out. Shouldn't have been there, but they were. After these two experiences, I began to kind of get the hang of it, that my journey was going to be a series of encounters with all sorts of things. Next week, we'll look at there's some more positive encounters. It started off really rough. Well, it started off with the stigmata, which nearly killed me. That was quite a start. Then the barren wilderness, and then finding the dam and realizing the water of life had been denied. And then having to walk the path that had been denied. It's hardly surprising that I bumped into two strongholds straight away, is it? I thought, well, I understand now. The intercessors should not have let this happen. The water of life should not be held back. These strongholds should have been eradicated long ago, but they haven't been. And so I journeyed on. I wondered now what would happen next. Of course, now I'm getting the idea. I'm going, this is going to be a tough ride. Each stronghold denied brings its own emotional impact on my spirit. Done a lot of crying, and hurting. And my beloved Apostle Mary wife has had to pray for me over and over and over and over again to pull me out of these terrible places where I've had to go in order to break open the Lord's way. And so I began to think, well, I don't know. I'm just an ordinary guy, honest. I just plod through my Christian life best I can. I get this wrong, that wrong. I mishear this, I mishear that. There's nothing special about me. And I thought, Lord, why are you revealing all this to me? I didn't understand it, I'd have picked somebody else. Because I have no connections. I don't come from a big famous church or a big famous Christian family. I have none of those things. I'm just a man sitting here in front of his computer screen in the southeast of England. And I go, are you sure you've picked the right man? He said, the difference between you, son, is you will do what I tell you. Okay. So 2 strongholds. And so we're okay. We got 5 minutes left. I'm very conscious of time, particularly for our friends in developing countries, a lot of whom watch, where internet is expensive. So that's why we try to keep it to half an hour. That's not too expensive. Expensive for me when I'm there as well. I went, I travelled on the barren place. I dealt with the barren place and the arrogant place. And before I was to come to something more positive, I hit this one. Sorry, not that one. We've done that one. This one, the despair stronghold. And so we had barren, arrogant, despair. That's the trinity of the enemy, I would say. I thought, how much? So sorry, I'll just come back. I just wanted to add to that. That was a kind of demonic trinity. That's what he does. We're going to find that many times as we go on. Threes are going to come up in the demonic world. It's not all demonic, by the way. It just started this way. And I guess the Lord marks the path, not me. I walk it. I guess these three, the enemy mimics the Lord all the time. And I guess, he likes threes. And here's a trinity of barrenness, arrogance and despair. That's a nasty trinity, isn't it, of negatives, which certainly would erode the human spirit greatly. All three do, don't they? So I came to this one, and this time the demonic spoke to me. He spoke to the Lord through Legion, but I'm careful when he speaks because he's a liar. So I'm very, very guarded in what I hear. And this is what it said. You shall not pass. It was quite clear. It was arrogant. It was barren. It was despair. You shall not pass. And I felt insulted because I am a child of the King and I'll pass anywhere. No one's going to stop me, least of all this sort of filth. You shall not pass. We'll come across that many times in the future. Now, I realise now was the time for me to try and work out what to do. I'd already erected the arch of praise. That was new to me. The arrogant stronghold, I just chopped it down. I've done that before. But this one, how was I going to deal with this one? I could feel the despair radiating out. Some countries of the world today are full of despair. I try to avoid mentioning them because I want this to be general, but you can work it out for yourself. How was I going to deal with this one? And I had an inspiration. This is the thing. I had a lot of inspirations, things I'd never thought of before. I had this idea. This is what I did. I took the demonic forces and a demonic force or forces, and I chained them with the gospel. I said, you shall stand here with these chains as an object of ridicule for all those who pass by. People that pass by will look at these little weaselly things under the chains of the gospel and they will laugh. I reduce you to an object of ridicule to those that pass by. Now I began to think, who's going to pass by? We'll come to that as we go along. I made them an object of ridicule. They couldn't move. The chains of the gospel would chain them stationary, unable to move, unable to do anything, completely powerless. The Lord has neutered the enemy. I said, you will stay here until the Lord returns to destroy you. Now that's new to me. That was a new thing to me. That sounded very satisfactory. And it worked because I saw my way opening in front of me and all the spirits of despair vanished. So I called down the angels to occupy this place, but I said to the angels, don't touch them, let them stand there, chained by the gospel of the risen Christ, of the crucified master I serve. Make them stay there, they will. But you occupy this stronghold and make it a place of praise to the Lord, which I do all the time. And I called on a couple of legions every time to do that. And that's what I did. So that's the end of, that's where I got to in this audio, this transmission. That's where I got to. I hope you can kind of hold the bits together in your mind. It's not easy, I know. The first part was my commission to crucified intercession. That that video is still available on our website. We record YouTube and save it. Second part was the Lord going, well, we better get you underway. And my underway was to see where the problem was, that's the dam, and thinking, because I was perhaps naive, I'll just destroy it. That's what I would normally do. They'll say, no. You better walk the path that the lack of the dam has left. You must walk down it. Okay? And my first walking was a bumping into these demonic strongholds. I think the Lord wanted to help me understand what I was up against. So there we are. Thank you. Next week, we'll do session 3, where I come to the oasis of tranquility. And that was a very interesting experience for me, because it was the first time I met any people on the route. So same time next week. Don't forget session 1, and this session will be on our YouTube page. Painful Grace 1 is on Kindle. If you put Jim Smith Painful Grace 1, it'll take you straight there, and you can download it onto your Kindle app or onto your Kindle, and then you can follow along with me. I appreciate your company. I hope you appreciate how difficult it is for me, but together we will, I'm sure, come to some understanding. Thank you for watching.